G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Dowling from the website Kangaroo Court of Australia. Now, it's been reported that former Prime Minister Scott Morrison is manoeuvring to try and get a position on the Australian Rugby League Commission board. That's the board that oversees rugby league in Australia. And it's probably an indication that he's looking at moving out of politics because he's currently a federal MP. And I think he'd be aware that if he's going to move to a Australian Rugby League Commission or get a role there, he'll need to retire from politics because the federal government, the Labor Party government, wouldn't look kindly on him being a Rugby League Commissioner while at the same time being a federal MP. That raises a whole heap of issues. Firstly, would the Australian Rugby League Commission want him? You have to remember he was sacked from his role as Tourism Australia Managing Director back in 2006, I think it was. He was sacked because of, I believe, financial fraud. But that's never been openly and publicly determined exactly why he did leave. No one's saying anything, but all the indicators point to financial fraud of some sort. He was also sacked from Tourism New Zealand. He had a 2-year contract and he was sacked after about 12 months. So he's not the sort of person you'd really want on the board. Then you have to remember he's pretty well destroyed the Liberal Party. Some would argue it was destroyed before he came along, but he took corruption to a whole new level and he did it openly and publicly. Didn't even try and hide it very well. So that party might never come back from that, from his corruption and openly and blatantly publicly corruption. So would the ARL want someone with such a bad reputation on their board? I think what it's about is Scott Morrison trying to rehabilitate his reputation because it's been trashed by himself. Now, don't write it off totally because the Australian Rugby League have a contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars with Channel 9. Who's the chairman of Channel 9? Peter Costello, the former Liberal Party federal treasurer. Now, he owes Scott Morrison, they're good friends. When Scott Morrison was Prime Minister, Peter Costello made millions of dollars from his consultancy businesses, ECG Financial Services and ECG Advisory Services. They made millions of dollars from various government contracts, advising companies on how to deal with the government. One example is a submarine contract that never went ahead. It was originally going to cost something like $5.5 billion to cancel the contract. It ended up costing something like $4 billion. But either way, that Peter Costello and his good mate David Gazzard, who was also part of ECG Advisory Services, made millions of dollars from that contract. Exactly how much we'll probably never know. Now, so Peter Costello owes Scott Morrison a lot, and he could use his position as chairman of Channel 9 with the contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars with the ARL to put pressure on them to take Scott Morrison on as a director. Problem is, obviously, there'd be a conflict of interest because Scott Morrison would be leaking like a sieve to Peter Costello in relation to any future contract negotiations. But you might say, well, Peter Costello isn't going to abuse his position to help Scott Morrison. Well, Peter Costello did that at the last federal election only a couple of months ago. He was out there campaigning with Josh Frydenberg. He should have been nowhere near Josh Frydenberg. The conflict of interest was massive, but he didn't care. He was getting his happy snap at the campaign boost with Josh Frydenberg, trying to help him be re-elected because he was under huge pressure, Josh Frydenberg, and he ultimately lost his seat. So to sit back and think Peter Costello won't abuse his position as Channel 9 to help Scott Morrison, well, you're wrong. He would. Whether he'd be successful or not is unknown, because like I said, there'd be a huge conflict of interest. The ARL really wouldn't want Scott Morrison on their board, on the committee, because like I said, he'd be leaking like a sieve, and his history is one of destroying organisations that he's been the head of. So I think there's a lot to play out over the next few weeks, but I think it is an indicator that Scott Morrison is on the way out. He's looking to retire from politics and he's looking at the next opportunities. And getting on the board of the ARL would be a benefit for him. It'd help rehabilitate his trash reputation. I don't know if it can be rehabilitated myself, but he's obviously going to try. Other than that, please share this video on Facebook and Twitter and all other social media. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Other than that, thank you for your time and have a good day.